Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So hopefully today's video won't look too different. I did end up changing a bit of like my setup and layout to hopefully have like more of a permanent kind of recording space. But today I thought it'd be fun to do another kind of longer alcohol marker session. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I'll make sure to post the little time-lapse version of the sketch that I have done digitally. So we are going to be doing the alcohol marker drawing of some of the members of By the Beach, and I mean some, I mean all four. So I went ahead and printed out the sketches that I did on my iPad onto two, I guess like 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper so that we can tile them to make up our 11 by 14. To give you a little bit of a better idea, this is how big my piece of paper is compared to the 8.5 by 11. So I need to tile my pieces of paper. Otherwise, like we would not be able to fit the sketch onto this piece of paper. Let's go ahead and cut off a section of this so that we can tape it to our other sheet of paper. So even though this is going to be a longer session, I think I'm not gonna leave it like super unedited. I will cut out some parts just to make things a little bit more concise. But for the most part, I will try to show my entire full process of how I do these. I have a few other sessions I've done in the past, but I think it's always fun to do some of these longer sessions. One, you can definitely draw along, but two, I think it's more realistic to see how long it takes me to work on a piece. I'm gonna have to get some tape as well. So it's about there. It's kind of where it would look the most seamless. I just have like blue painter's tape that I'm gonna be using. You can definitely use any tape that you have. And I'm gonna do my best to place my pieces of tape on areas that don't need to have any pencil transfer if possible. Okay, it kind of slipped my mind. I kind of forgot. Because we're working with alcohol markers, I like to do line art and inking first. So yes, I needed to tile this, but we are not going to be scribbling on the back of this to make it like a makeshift carbon copy paper. I'm just going to go ahead and grab my light pad. We're going to tear off a sheet of one of the Strathmore papers right here. So this is one of my favorite papers to work with when I'm using alcohol markers. I just find for some reason it works well with like the blending. It can take up a lot of ink as well. And there's very minimal bleed through if any, but definitely play around and test what kind of paper you have available for yourself alongside with what works for your, like the techniques you want to use or like the medium that you want to use for your entire piece. Okay, next up. I have my Gaomon Light Pad or sketch. So I'm gonna plug this in. I have to do this upside down. I might turn off all the lights so that I can see, but then it'll be easier for you guys to see as well. So right here is my sketch. Underneath is the paper. So the reason why I have it flipped to have my sketch on top right now is that I would like to, ideally, bend a corner on Zeals. Bend a little bit on Zeals. I might bend a little bit on Freos as well. Kind of like so. And then it won't slip around while we're working on the line art. So if I can turn on my light pad and if I shut off my extra lights here, I might even shut off my room light as well so you can see even more. So before I forget entirely, I like using the Magicfly markers for our line art. So look at our color swatches so that we can find a color that would work the best. So I'm probably just gonna pick like an orange or a red. It looks really intense, but it's more like a warmer, almost like brownish red color. It's very red. Maybe I can go with something lighter. And when that happens, it does make it a little bit difficult because I've like burned through the nib pretty badly. I think this one will work actually. It's a little bit more like brownish. So I don't know how well you guys are gonna be able to see. Even I feel like I can't see that much. But I have a scrap piece of paper right here. so that I can kind of keep my hand safe from the paper, because I do have hand cream on, so I don't want to be smearing that around by accident, but as well as any moisture, any oils from my hands might transfer to the paper. It's not as detrimental, I find, with alcohol markers. It's more for me just to keep up a good habit, I guess. Also for music this time, I'm listening to like a, is it like a study with Miku, part Sekai. That's a good song selection, but it's also like more lo-fi. Like I mentioned, I think I might format this video with a few cuts here and there. Line art is a little bit iffy for me, so I tend to talk a little bit less. Some people might enjoy that, so maybe I'll leave it in, but... So I'm not super used to drawing these boys from By the Beat. I've drawn Kaelix the most, and I've drawn, I think next would be Zeal technically, because there's an illustration that I technically want to do this week as well, which you guys might see on Saturday, I think. Nope, this is Saturday's video, I think. I have things backwards. I'm recording this like in a very weird order. So we were working on Seible. If I remember, I will see if I will put like timestamps per member, if there's like a specific one you want to watch, because the way how I'm going to go about tackling this, I think, is that I will be working on each member one by one after I finish the line art. That's something like I usually debate about every time I do a illustration that has like multiple characters. If I want to do the characters pretty much like all together versus like separating them and doing them one by one. Because the good thing about doing them one by one is that I can put more care into like their individual illustration. But unfortunately, whoever I finish last might get the brunt of me being tired of the drawing. And sometimes the illustration might look a little bit less cohesive because I've drawn them all separately. I think this should be probably okay for the most part. Part of me wishes I chose a lighter color now. I might have botched Seible's eyes. By the way, we're working on Seible first. If you're not familiar with the characters, I'll try my best to also put like the name of the character that I'm currently working on the bottom of the screen or something, so that you guys can check them out if you're interested. I definitely want to do like another graphite session to draw all of them kind of together rather than like in their little individual boxes like I have right here. Also apologies, I tend to move the paper a lot. So typically, people's hands have like a natural pivot like this. So oftentimes, like I find it easier to flick downwards or upwards when I'm making line work. Oh, I should have moved my mic. I've been looking downwards the entire time. Ugh. Okay. Maybe the volume's better now this way. Doesn't sound like I'm talking into an abyss. What was I talking about though? Was I talking about the changing the colors? No, I don't think so. What was I talking about before? I talked about a little bit about the line work. I think I talked a little bit about the boys. Or, okay, so basically, I don't know why. I'm in this mood where I'm watching live streams again, like more frequently. I think it's because I'm in like con crunch mode. Sometimes I take break from like watching streams so that I can watch like shorter videos that, I don't know, sometimes I need to pay attention a little bit more to. These ones tend to be a little bit more head empty depending on what they're playing. But they've been so fun to watch, and there's so many collabs more recently, so I've been enjoying a lot of those. So I made my drawing the exact same size as my piece of paper, which was a bit of a mistake because my printer will not print up till the edge unless I'm using my Canon photo printer. I'm just using like a normal laser jet, and you can't print like all the way to the edge of the paper. So even me tiling it, there's going to be some parts that are going to be cut off. So I intentionally shrunk down the drawing when I was making the tiling process to see whether or not I could at least have them have a consistent amount of, what is it called? The borders around them to be the same size basically all the way around. You guys see that? So this is kind of what the sketch looks like right now. Or not the sketch, my line work. Because I feel like sometimes it's hard to see when I have like all the lights off. But because I've been enjoying their streams, it just makes me have urges to like really draw them. Because not only that, their character designs I find just very cute. Sable's so round. But yeah, I'm gonna leave these probably like just cut off at the top, and hopefully when I'm doing the coloring portion it won't look too funky. Okay, so Sable does have gloves. I didn't really indicate that when I was doing the sketching portion, because I can see the outline of where I put the nails for his hands or fingers, I guess. So in this case, like, putting the lines or like the seams on gloves really helps give it a little bit more dimension, but also helps me find which way the finger or like the hand is facing. And it's kind of similar to like if you have fingernails. If you have hands that might be facing like downwards or like upwards and it's hard to tell the difference if you don't think about like where the thumb is, then adding like the indication of fingernails I think helps indicate that a little bit easier too. So ideally when working with line art, but knowing my own sketching habits, I would like to follow my sketch to like down to a T. But sometimes I sketch so vaguely, I can't tell what some things are. Or if I sketched them like incorrectly and then didn't really correct it, then I kind of have to correct it or make that call during the line art phase so that we aren't stuck with it during the coloring portion. Marker-wise, we are going to use a few from, I think, Ohuhu, a little bit from either my Copics or the Artex ones. Oh, I should get a ruler maybe. 1 second. Where's the ruler? Pop in our little lines here. And we have this side. Hopefully I can line it up. I should have probably grabbed my other ruler, which is like significantly longer. So I don't have like a weird break in our lines here. So if you use a bit of a lighter color for your line art, give it much more of like a softer look. And depending on like your color palette, your line art can really blend into the rest of your colors. But that's why usually at the end, I like to add a little bit of a darker line art to help with some contrast. Because oftentimes I've picked a color that's a little bit more on the softer side, and it would require some help or assistance with some darker lines to help things stand out, make a little bit more sense, and have that nice contrast. Trying to prevent myself from going too much into autopilot mode here. Also, this might be a strange question to ask, because it's kind of like out of the blue, but like sometimes in times where I'm not like talking in a video, and it's like a real-time video like this and I don't cut it out, especially if I'm doing like more of like a full process type of video for you guys. I kind of messed this up actually. This is supposed to be his jacket, and then the other one's supposed to be his sleeve. That's okay. So, if you guys have played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, what kind of Pokemon do you tend to get for like the little quiz at the very beginning? I don't really remember which one I gotten a lot. I think I've gotten Pikachu once, but I wanted Eevee. And then other times, I think as I grew older, I think the latest one I've cheated because I wanted a specific character or Pokemon starter and partner. So I don't really remember what was like my default Pokemon that I got for like Red and Blue Rescue. And then I don't remember like Explorers of Time and Darkness or whatever it was called. Okay, but we're done with Seible, I think. So let's go ahead and move on to, do I want to do Kaelix next or do I want to do Freo? I guess like in order. Oh, his is cut off though. We'll do Kaelix next maybe. Or maybe I'll change the angle for Kaelix and Zeal. So let's work on Freo actually, so that we can kind of keep our camera consistency here. Camera angle. But yeah, if you played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, let me know. I'm trying to remember in like my current, the remake file. Who am I again? I think I'm a Squirtle. So I have Blastoise, and then my partner is a Typhlosion, I think. Okay, so for Freo, I always don't remember whether or not I do like highlights in the pupil with line art, or do I do it at the very end? Kind of with the alcohol markers. But before I forget and go back to my tangent here, for the reason I guess why I was asking about Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, besides like I'm always usually in a Pokemon mood. I love Pokemon so much. But I think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be out for pre-orders pretty soon. I'm still debating if I'm going to get it or not. I think I will, because I haven't really owned my own like console. It wasn't like just the normal handheld. I've always shared with my brother. But I think I'll get my own Switch 2 this time. But I hope, I can only really hope, is that even though the new Pokemon game is going to be, I think on both systems? Maybe? Or is it just on the Switch 2? But either way, I want them to make another Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. It's like one of my favorite series ever. Because who doesn't want to play as a Pokemon? And I love clearing the dungeons, and I don't know, the sprites look super cute. But back to By the Beat. I have been listening to Zeal's EP. Man, those songs are really good. But I think Corroding Heart is definitely more of my type since I love ballads. So I want to do an illustration kind of like based on that concept. And I've brainstormed some ideas, so hopefully you've already seen the outcome of that. If I'm correct about the release of these video recordings in order. If not, maybe I didn't have enough time to finish it and this one will come out first. Oh, I don't think it was evident. Unless, like, you know, you're just listening. So, basically, this is like a very much well-used concept that a lot of people have done. But it's like making the little heart shape in the center by having, like, each individual person of their own, like, different frame kind of makes up a piece of, like, the heart outline, which I always think is super cute. I feel like I've done it more recently. I can't put my finger on it what else I did this for. I've done it for like 17, Teen Top. I think I've done Infinite. Everyone has gloves. But with all like this is another tangent, I'm so sorry. But with me listening to like the Miku study playlist lo-fi thing, I might get back into Project Sekai. Maybe. We'll see. I do want to do fan art of them or something. Or do like little chibi versions like I did for the Ensemble Stars cast. But I'm not too sure yet. I don't know how much time I can dedicate playing another game. Like, I haven't dropped Genshin, but I've definitely been playing it a lot less. I play mostly Honkai Star Rail and Reverse 1999. What does his earrings look like? Frio. Let's see. I don't want to get too lazy when it comes to like line art. I really like his earring design. It's very, very pretty. Because I do like how angular it is. But then you have like the round design around it. And like, it's not like entirely sharp, if that makes sense. Because it's like kind of like that sparkle star design. Also, thank you guys for indulging me every time I draw like repetitive hyperfixations at the moment. So I've been doing a lot of like VTuber fan art again. Because By the Beat kind of like reignited me wanting to do more just VTuber fan art in general. Because sometimes I record them and then other times I don't. Here's another hyperfixation. I don't know if it's a hyperfixation actually. Usually my hyperfixations are like a little bit more, maybe last like a month and then it'll die down. So like my VTuber one, it's not exactly a hyperfixation. I'm just like a general fan. But another one I wanted to talk about is if any of you guys are fans of Star Kid, because I saw an announcement for kind of like the reprised version of The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals. And seeing that Will Branner is going to be playing Professor Higgins, which is exciting. I don't know, I love Star Kid so much. I like their stuff a lot. His hair's getting a little bit wonky. I don't know if this happens to you guys, depending if you're someone who does digital drawing. If you have the ability to put like other elements of like, let's say the hair, the face, or something like that on a different layer, just do it. Sometimes I low-key brute force some stuff to be like, oh, for the ease of like not wanting to switch between layers, sometimes I will just try to fit something in. And that's what I did with Frio's hair here. So the shape of it's a little wonky because I did not draw the full shape of his hair. Instead, I drew around it, where we're kind of like where his hand is in the way, which is a bad idea. It just makes the shape look a little awkward. Oh, wait, was I out of frame the entire time? Oh no. That's what I get for not looking at the screen. The whole point of doing Frio next was supposed to be so that I wouldn't have to need to change the camera angle super drastically, but I think I was out of frame for Frio the entire time. Let's hope that's not the case. So much like almost like jewelry detail almost. What do you call that? Like beading? I always feel it's a little hard to interpret how some artists draw like beads or accessories that have like a lot of tiny details. Okay, lights on. What Frio looks like. Seible. And then let's work on Kaelix. Probably next. Kaelix Debonair. Okay, so his would be a little bit harder to comfortably work on, I guess, because the paper's so long. Okay, let's see. So typically I like to work on the eyes first, but if they have a significant amount of like hair or accessories that cover the eyes, then I will do that first. Otherwise, I might accidentally make the eyes be in front of those elements, which usually isn't like too bad, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like if I ended up doing his eyes without having the glasses, like the rim of his glasses kind of already outlined, and I go over it, it's kind of hard to take back. Did I miss hair here? I did. I'll just put it back in. So I'm pretty much doing all of his hair all at once, and then I'll put in his glasses, and then we can do his eyes. And the reason being is that I or like the reason why I like doing eyes first typically is I work on the face usually first, so that if I dislike the face, I will immediately scrap the drawing or try to salvage it at that point. But if not, then it'll be like, I feel like I lose a little bit less time if I have to scrap it at that point versus like if I outlined everything else first, then went to the face just to dislike it, then I wasted all that time working on all those other details when I knew I like working on the face the most. I was gonna make his eyes closed to give him more of that like really happy demeanor, but I like his eye color. So I wanted to keep them open, and just like visually it looks nicer, I think, because the other members also have all their eyes open. Just like habits from when I'm doing line art, I will darken up like corners or places that are potentially would have like a need for more depth. But I think one of my favorite collabs recently that I've watched is the one for the Haunted Rock Club. So that's with like Reimu, Maria, Zeal, and Kaelix. Their dynamic is so funny. That's also cozy because it's farming games. Okay. Ear. Where is his ear? Because it is this. I couldn't tell if this was his ear or it's gonna be like accidental lines from the rims of his glasses. Because hopefully I did an okay job with like my sketch where I've cleaned up enough for me to decipher what exactly I drew. I make his neck a little too wide. I don't know if you can tell that I'm scared of working on Kaelix's eyes, but also just not wanting to do the glasses yet. Ooh, I forgot he has a chain here. kind of gonna be awkward to throw in. Oh, also because I have a little bit more of a consistent setup now, hopefully I can get back into streaming, because even though I have a lot of like con prep to do, it would be fun to do some of the chibi designs and stuff that I've been working on with you guys, which means there's going to be more like maybe Clip Studio Paint type of drawing sessions. Maybe. We'll see. I need to test the internet speed because I am on like Wi-Fi right now, which probably means that it might be a little spotty, because right now it seems like it's quite strong, but maybe a little spotty. Trust the circle that I've made. I don't know if I've told this story before, because I was gonna say like circles are the enemy. Because back in like middle school, so like junior high, I had a friend who really liked my drawings, and she liked watching me draw, but she didn't have any confidence drawing. So later on, when I finally convinced her that she should just draw, because I like watching other people draw as well. But you know how like people typically start with like a circle for the head for like anime characters for the first guideline? So I think she saw me doing that quite a bit. And granted, like a lot of people do it in general, it's not just me. She was like, I don't know if she's a perfectionist, but she needed like a good circle. So she would always make me draw like the very first circle. And I was very like, at the time especially, I was a little bit more like heavy-handed. I was very much more like less loose when I was sketching. So I did like turning the paper to do your circle type of thing. And it was like pretty decently round circle, which was definitely like not needed to when you're starting off with like drawing the head for like a guide or anything. Because you don't need like a perfect circle to start. A part of me wants to see if I can do it still. Ooh, this is such a bad. But like I mentioned, like, you know how you have your pivot in your hand, right? So I guess like my pivot in my hand was fairly consistent. Oh, I'm definitely off right now. I would do stuff like this for her, and then you know you do your cross or whatever to do the face, but I would always make these for her, obviously in pencil. But it's like a memory I have with her. Unfortunately, I don't talk to her anymore. I haven't talked to her since probably grade 9. Because we ended up going to a different school. But that friend was like always, she's so gung-ho about so many things. She had like a very like fiery personality. So when it was like time to pick courses for our high school, everyone had just assumed like you were going to this particular local high school. Ended up going to like a private school at some point. So they were aware of it. But our schools would be like right across from each other, like literally across the football field. And my friend was like, the one that has like the fiery personality, she's like, I'm gonna find a tree. I'm gonna like hollow out that tree or like find like a, what is it called? It's the hole in a tree. And she was gonna say, like, I'm gonna put, like, secret little letters in there. This is, like, how we're gonna communicate. This is very cute. Because our schools were, like, low-key at odds. So they always made our lunches, like, at different times and stuff. And try to minimize the amount of interactions we had, at least like during school hours, which I feel like makes sense. You don't want anything going on, I guess, but because of that, she was like, secret tree, put messages so that we could talk to each other. Which feels a little silly, because we both had, like, you know, like mobile phones, smartphones, or whatever eventually. Also never stopped, like, my actual current best friends. Both of them attended that school too, and I actually got closer to both of them. More so, like, one more than the other. Like, I've had friend A and friend B. Friend A I met, like, in 7th grade because we were in the same homeroom and basically became friends within, like, the first week. And we've been close ever since. But friend B, I met during, I think I met her during 7th grade, but we didn't become friends until, like, 9th grade because I had foods class with her, or, like, culinary, basically. But then, even then, we were kind of just, like, acquaintances. And then friend A and friend B became friends in also grade 9 because they had gym together, so they saw each other more frequently than I saw friend B. But I became friends and a lot closer with friend B once we went to different schools because we would always hang out with friend A, so we became, like, a lot closer. And now they're my 2 best friends, so Let's move on to Zeal, though, so I don't go off too much on a tangent. I ended up not giving Zeal his hat just because I think the cropping would have made it look a little funky, especially because, like, cutting off the right-hand side, and then already the top's already very small. So let's go ahead and work on Zeal. So far we're at about 40 minutes into doing the line art. I don't know if I cut the footage when I was working on Seible, but yeah, we're about 43 minutes in for working on line art, which isn't too bad. I was expecting line art to at least take more than an hour, but I think we'll hit closer to an hour at this rate. But friend B is, like, the one that I've made like a VTuber model for fun. And she's, like, the one that's more like a weeb like me. I talk about Alien Stage with her, or, like, different mangas. She's, like, a speed reader when it comes to, like, manga. So I can always ask, like, hey, have you heard of this series and is it any good? Because most likely it's, like, 98% of the time she's already read it and caught up. But both of my friends are, like, corporate girlies. They work in a corporate setting. I also don't know how I want to do Zeal's eyes. Maybe similar to Kaelix, where I'll put the highlight near the side. I definitely gave him a little bit less sharp eyes, but given his personality, he's more like chill and relaxed, so maybe it's okay. Also, I hope my friends will never see this video. Like, ever. Or any of my videos, to be honest, but more specifically this one. I don't gush about them too much in their face, but I do love my 2 friends. My 2 best friends, I guess. like Zeal's hair, even though like I'm very bad at drawing people who have like a middle part. I don't know what's about it. I just something I don't like about it. But I do like Zeal's hair. I don't know if it's because he has like a lot of like flyaways almost, so it gives his hair a little bit more like texture, and the way it sits on his face frames his face in a nice way that isn't too like flat feeling, if that makes sense. So let me give you an example. If you guys play Genshin still, Ningguang, her hair without that little centerpiece that like sits between her hair part and kind of like goes towards like the middle of her forehead, I would hate drawing her. I would not draw her, probably. One, it's mostly because like it's just, I would butcher her so badly. But two, I don't know, I just don't like the look of it that much. Even though like IRL, it looks fine on people. I don't think it looks good on me either. But I've had like a side part forever. I've had like pretty much the same hairstyle since I've been in middle school, which is bad. Obviously, like I don't wear it the same way, if that makes sense. Like styling wise-ish. I talked to my friend's mom sometime last month. And she was like, you haven't changed. You still look like how you were in middle school. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment. Makes me want to change my hair. Not from like her comment, but just like the realization that it has been the same for a super long time. Like other than the length, obviously. But I have like more of like a round face, I guess. Round-ish, maybe. Or so I'm told. I have a round face. I can't tell if it's like still the baby fat. Earrings. I think this is correct. I love like long dangling earrings for some reason. I think that's another reason why I like drawing D8 from 17 so much. Besides like he's just fun to draw in general. Like his eye shape, his ears, his demeanor, like his mouth and stuff. I don't know, his facial features are fun. But he also had like fun earrings that you could really mess around with in terms of drawing. Because he has his ears pierced like quite often. Or not pierced quite often. He changes his earrings quite often, I feel like. Depending on the era. I might see if I can... I feel like Freo's would be cut off quite a bit though. Another kind of necklace or chain. Also, I ended up doing like small or like very brief indication of shadows for each of them. Because technically, I was going to make the light source to be near the heart. So for Zeal and Freo, it'll be like in the upper left, upper right for the both of them. But then I didn't really want to do underlit lighting for these two because I feel like it would have been too drastic of, what is it called? Like the difference between all of them. So I think I just do upper left, upper right for each of them, depending which side they're facing. Okay. Zeal's just really cool. Visually, and just like his demeanor is so chill. Cause like, I think in terms of like who I watch the most, obviously I think I watch Kaelix the most. He's just very fun, very silly. Then I watch Zeal every so often, just because like timing wise, and then occasionally I watch like Freo and Seible whenever I'm able to catch their streams. But Kaelix and Zeal is the ones that I tend to watch like the VODs of afterwards as well. Because I think for the most part, all of them stream at a pretty okay time for me to watch them live. It's just whether or not like anyone has like conflicting live schedules that I prioritize. Like I watch Reimu a lot, obviously. But my Oshis are like, I feel like they're on hiatus because I think Albin's going on hiatus, and then Ike's been low-key MIA for a while. But at least I have Reimu to still watch a lot. And then the Hololive girls, I watch Ina and Mume, even though she's graduating. Sad. So many graduations soon. Gura, Mume, Fulgur? Futan? I always feel weird like saying people's nicknames if like I don't know them. So like I don't want to say Futan because I don't know them, I guess. So Fulgur. Okay, so I think we are pretty much done. Actually, let's do it like that. And then I don't know what this is. I think I screwed up his shirt, but that's okay. I think we are done with the line art. I'm gonna take a quick break and I'll come back to show you guys what this looks like, kind of without the weird lighting that we have. And then I'll do a few touch-ups and we can get started with coloring. Okay, I had a little bit of a hiccup there. Okay, so here is what our line art kind of looks like right now. So Freo does have the most cut off, like other than, I guess they are cut off at the top for the most part. I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal. I am going to go ahead and remove our sketch, and then we can actually get started with the coloring. This is like one of the ways that's like mess free to do line art, so I don't have to do like a sketch transfer and do line art after like I do with watercolors. Okay. So kind of the comparison between our sketch, oops, to our line art. Okay, so like I mentioned, for markers, I am gonna probably do a combination of a little bit of either Copic and Artex with my Ohuhu markers, but for the majority of our drawing session, I will be mostly using the Ohuhu markers, just because I do have a lot of colors to pick from, as well as they are more or less all still full. There's just like some colors that I use for like skin tone or skin tone shading that I'm running a little bit low on, so I might pick and choose from other sets that I do currently have until I find some refills. So I think in terms of drawing order, I am gonna go Seible, Kaelix, Freo, and then Zeal, just because it will be easier to work from like top to bottom probably in terms of like the view. So typically, for working on this kind of like Bristol board vellum surface, the paper is thick enough and absorbs the marker ink quite well, so I don't usually have to put down a sheet of paper or anything underneath to catch blade through. But because I am a little bit paranoid of getting ink on this white desk, I will be putting one anyways. Our best friends are going to be swatch sheets or like anything that looks kind of like this, so we can pick colors a little bit more quickly. I have all of Seible's colors already picked out, and I have these colors as well, so that we can place them kind of like inside these hearts. I don't know if this is gonna be a good idea or a bad idea. Oh. I want to color like the inside of the hearts, regardless of what color is supposed to be here. Just kind of like to highlight their section. I was gonna put background colors, but I think I'll just do the inside of the hearts for each of the members with their kind of associated colors, but I went with more of a pastel so that it's not too overpowering. Try to make this a little bit smoother. I don't know if the camera's like being a little funky. Not too sure if it's because I switched ports or something for my camera that makes it look a little funky right now. Okay, so let's work on his skin tone. So for skin tone, I picked these two for kind of like his base skin color from the Copic sketch series. So let's use our YR01 to start off, and then we'll blend out with this one as our base after. Because typically when I do the skin with alcohol markers, I place down areas that I want to have a little bit more warmth and place kind of like, not exactly our mid-tone color, but one of the darker shades. So that we can use our lighter color to blend all of this out. So unfortunately, the way how I've already done this, I low-key abandoned the lighting source that I initially wanted. We just won't make it a super strong one, I guess. I would like to get refills for at least the skin tone set, because for almost all the alcohol marker drawings I do, I will most likely have like a character that will require some semblance of the skin tone set, probably to some degree. For some like darker skin tones, I would have to pick up some other markers probably. Let's go back in. So I wanted this one to have the upper right as the light source, so I'm just gonna plan now. Skin's usually my favorite part to color too. Typically, I guess. Because sometimes it's hair, sometimes it's the eyes. I always think skin tone is kind of fun to play around with some of the colors near like our shadows. I'm gonna layer a little bit here. Almost like a, not stained glass, what it's called. I guess like a sheet of glass or like acetate or something that make this look like a different color. But we can place in some of the original color very lightly back into these spaces so it doesn't look like it's just a blue void. So for shadows, I picked out some purples, pinks, and blues, which are also present in his color palette. So I'll probably use this. Let's see, I think this is our lightest. Kind of like that, and then we need to go a little darker. So to start off, let's use our shadow pink. Plan out the shadows a little bit more. I think pretty much all three have similar skin tones. So I can probably use the same combination for the 4 of them. Let's kind of choose maybe one of our mid-tone purples. And if we really need to, I'll take another lighter purple to blend it out slightly. So this paper allows me to blend a lot, which is kind of nice, but some of the colors do appear like slightly patchy at times. But I'm usually not too bothered by it. I think there was one piece, I think it was the one that I did of Ike with the candle holder thing that he was holding, and it was like a very dark background. That one bothered me a bit if it was like not done properly in terms of the background being a little bit less patchy. So adding a little bit of that blue. It really works with Seible's color palette just because he also kind of has this blue in his hair and it's present in his eye color as well. He's looking kind of cute already. I would like to get more of a grayish blue, which I forgot to get, because we need to do the shadows for his eyes. So let's use BG 1103. Hopefully this isn't too dark. And then for eye color, I'm going to start off with a kind of like a light pink. Right at the bottom. Go into our lighter blue. We have to find a color to help blend that out a bit. So usually I would like to leave a little bit more of like a color at the very top. I don't know if I can here. There's a bit of feathering here since I did concentrate some of the ink a little bit too close. Doing the eyes is sometimes one of the scarier parts, but we have white acrylic paint markers and like gel pens and all that stuff if you need to correct the highlight. But I do like to be a little bit wary of it if I can. Go slightly darker. Kind of complete the pupil. Add it into his lash line a little bit too. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of some shadows on this side as well. Okay, so eyes pretty much finished. I think the face is pretty okay. I might go back in and add a little bit of like the blush color at the very end with like a colored pencil or something, because to kind of give it more of like a softer look. Let's see. Okay, for hair, let's start off with dark suntan maybe. So this is like his main hair color, I think. Then I have the lighter color to blend into our skin tone. I didn't really plan out where the highlights were gonna be. So we're just gonna do a bit of testing here. I should also plan out where his highlights, like, not exactly the hair shine, but his actual highlights. Because he has like different colored strands of hair as well. So let me plan those out. I think I've already screwed this one up. There's one more. I went with like a little bit more of a purpley blue. His is kind of like a purpley blue. It could lean a little bit cooler. But, what was I gonna use to kind of blend this out? My brain's like a little frazzled. I think it's this one. Yeah, we can probably, I don't know why I said frazzled, I meant fried. Okay, let's add in his pink as well. Which I kind of want to do a combination. So I do have like shadow pink, but it's not exactly super bright by any means. So I'm gonna add in kind of like a hot pink, just to make it a little bit more vibrant, not like throughout the whole entire thing, just some parts. Add it to his eyes as well. Maybe I'll add it to like the top, so I don't have to leave this completely white. Okay. So back to our hair. So I'm gonna use dark suntan and so this one, eggshell white, and we'll kind of plan out and block in the band of highlights. This is actually like where the sun or our lighting would hit. Switch colors. So just like a general rule of thumb for myself when I'm doing kind of coloring, I tend to pick like our mid-tone or like the main color and then a lighter color to blend things out if I want things to be more softer. And then we'll build up our darker values and colors afterwards. Because right here, I'm mostly using the lighter color to blend out our main brown color, which is this one, as our base, into the skin tone, just to make the framing portion a little bit softer. And then, because I know the majority of the highlights that I want is going to be on this side, I'm going to start filling in probably the rest of his hair in with their base color here. Ooh, I did miss one pink strand. Because this way we can add in our darker shadows and contrast and depth afterwards. And then to darken, I do have this color. I might have to even go even darker. But for this, I like to do like a band of darker color right underneath our highlights. It just makes the highlights pop a little bit more. So I was scared to make his hair too dark, because his hair is more like a light brown, if anything. But to push some shadows, go a little darker if we wanted to. Just need to find an appropriately correct hue that I would like. Yeah, I think we can pick a slightly darker brown. This is E120. I guess 130 is the next step up, unless we want to go more vibrant. Actually, I might go 282. R282. Sometimes like looking for the color is the bane of my existence. I feel like it's like an I Spy book. So for hair, I do find it easier to do things in like chunks if I can. I forget which piece I was working on where I tried to tackle almost everything like in passes, but I did it not in sections. And I don't think I was like happy with my color choices. So working in sections kind of helps me prepare in a way, because like it'll help me test colors before I commit to like the entire piece. As long as I don't screw up like super badly. And usually it's okay. But all of these will like benefit from having like a darker passive just line art in general. I'm just gonna fill in his brows actually too. So next up, he does have a lot of black. So I'm gonna do a little bit of testing. See if we can just layer a, like kind of like a mid-tone gray. Just to be able to keep everything light still, but I don't want to accidentally, like I said, make this just look like a blue void. Okay, but for the rest of his clothing, because they actually are pretty dark, like just a straight up black pretty much, I will start off with our base color again, which will be this one, I think. Or we might actually start off with black and then, well, this is like a dark purpley gray, but I'll kind of use the lighter gray color to help blend this out. I'm a little afraid to do the gloves. Do a little bit of testing on his collared shirt. Hopefully be able to blend it out a little bit. It looks closer here. For some reason on camera, it looks like a very distinct split. Looks better in person. Whoa. Hope you can kind of tell. Don't want to accidentally put too much of the gray into Freo's hair. Yeah, I think we're just gonna leave this pretty bare bones, but we can add a little bit of the tie color in. I can never work like super neat when it comes to using like alcohol markers. I'm always shocked how some people can get like super tiny details with alcohol markers. So his gloves are also dark. Let's just put in the thumb. I feel like the thumb should have been also in the blue. That's okay. take our gray color again. Try to buff it out a little bit. I wish you could see how not bad this looks, I guess. For some reason, the camera really just makes it look like the contrast is super high. Okay. So I'm gonna blend this out even more. Could have left a little bit of like white highlights. It's okay. It's not like super necessary. So here has like black and purple, so add a little bit of, or like pink, I guess, in this case. I think Seible is more or less finished before we have to do any like contrasting line work for everything. So, oh, I missed this area. Just has his sleeve. Kaelix, I'm a little worried about what colors to choose for his hair. So he has more or less like white hair with a little bit of a bluish gradient at the very bottom. I don't know, I think some darker line art will help his hands. Does look a little funky. Okay, then I'm gonna darken this up. We can move on. I think that's all I'm gonna do for Seibles. So let's move on to Kaelix. So I'm gonna put away some of the colors and then swap them out for the colors that I need for Kaelix, because he does have like a lighter color palette for his face and hair, and then a little bit of a darker color palette as we move to his clothing. Okay, time to work on Kaelix. Hopefully I changed the color a little bit of my camera so it's not too blue, I guess, or cool. And I've changed music, so I'm listening to Study with Miku Part 1 because it's more of my speed in terms of the songs that I know. But let's start off by adding in our colored little heart part. So for Kaelix, his is supposed to be yellow. The colors I chose for like all of them, they look cute with the caps. I hope they kind of match more or less when I lay down the actual color. for these two, it's gonna have like the least amount of overlap with their actual like body or like any of their clothing or anything like that. Kaelix and Seible have the most just because of how I positioned their hands. But I think it's kind of cute like having some window of color though. So how do we want to do this? I guess we'll do skin tone first, similar to Seible's. I'll throw in his glasses color next, and then we can go from there. Let's tilt the camera so I can tilt. Also tilt Kaelix. Okay. So I don't want to put too much. He does have more of like pink for his glasses, or like a pinkish purple color, and it kind of goes into a little bit of a blue, I believe. Okay, now we can blend it out. Hopefully me adding this kind of like yellowy peach to the glasses, because the base won't make the blue and pink too odd looking. So let some of the skin tone bleed into his hair, just a smidge, because his hair is white. I don't want to overdo it. Love the highlight for the nose area. Okay, next up, I'm gonna quickly throw in the glasses color, which I'm using Copics as well, since they have good pastel kind of colors. We'll see how this looks. Add a little bit of blue. At least I think I see a little bit of blue. But now it looks a little bit more like minty green. On camera it looks a little bit better. We'll add the blue first. Then add our pink on top. I do like the pastel colors from Copics. They're very, very light. And I feel like they're a little bit more of like a true pastel compared to some other brands. That kind of works. So let's add a little bit of something for shadows. And then you can go back and start working on the actual shadows for his skin tone, which I'm using the same set as I was using for Seible. You can tell I already forgot about our light source. Okay, I want a little bit of purple and blue. So we'll do purple or blue, just a smidge. Purple to fade it out. I don't really remember if this is the purple that I used. 150. Might have been this one. I should be a little bit more wary about what colors I'm slapping down for Kaelix, because his hair isn't really going to be able to cover it up. And the intensity is more or less going to remain the same, so don't want to go too dark here. Think probably good. So for his hair color, or let's actually do his eyes, I forgot. Right. He does have more of a cooler blue and yellow into his eyes, but with his colored lenses, kind of makes it a little hard to distinguish it as clearly. I'll go a smidge darker, not actually, yeah. Because his eyes aren't dark by any means. And I don't want to make them too dark compared to his actual, like, glasses. But I'm going to add a little bit of shadow. Let's see if we can blend it out. Okay, so after that, let's work on his hair. So his hair, because it's on the, like, it's literally white, I chose more or less like really pale colors for us to use. I might even throw a little bit of pink and these two maybe. He does need a little bit of that blue to the tips of his hair. Nothing too intense. Okay, so I'm going to use mostly grayish purple to plan out, I think, his shadows. So I'm going to start off on this side because it'll have the least amount of shadow technically. I just don't want to go too dark because it's like the shadow is going to be very, or like I guess like his hair reading as white is going to be very much influenced by the background, but because the background is also going to be more or less white, I don't want to go too dark. Add some blue. So any subsequent color that I add, it's either I'm going to use it to blend out edges or I'm just going to add it directly into our gray base here. So that's a little bit more seamless. Let's see. I want a light purple as well. Yeah, it's a little bit too intense. This is why you have to be a little bit careful with the colors you want to add in. If you have colors to blend them out. So he does have yellow in his outfit, so I do want to add at least a smidge of yellow here and there. And pink. So I'm probably going to use the same Copic marker. And I might add a little bit of a peach color too. Which I think is this one. So, yeah, I want to darken up some of the shadows here. Okay. So hopefully this kind of reads well enough. Gray hair, I feel like blonde as well as white. It's very difficult. I guess like anything that's a little bit more on the muted side would be difficult. At least for myself. Vibrancy wise for like a lot of hair colors that are very bright, I think I can usually manage. Something like this where it needs to be a little bit more subtle, I can definitely take it a little bit too far. Go a little bit too overboard. Eyebrows? Yeah, I think I want to darken his eyes for sure. It just feels a little bit like it's getting too lost. I also need to darken his frames. Just gonna make them a dark gray. I'm not too sure what the actual color is. because they are fairly thin, and I know they're just dark in general. Okay, then earring, make them a little bit on the darker side too. Let's leave a smidge for highlight. So his doesn't have too much going on, I don't think, other than we need to darken up portions of his clothes, and then he also has black gloves, which I am going to do a little bit differently, I think. Then so he has a mixture of like black, gray, white, and yellow. Well, he has like accents of purple too, but the way how I have him positioned on my page, I can't really see the purple that much. Similar to Sables, I'll use one of the lighter grays. Indicate that one of these, or I guess like all of this is like a darker turtleneck color. I might just do this actually. I know his chain's like lighter than his turtleneck by a significant amount, but we'll just add a little bit of a shadow underneath to differentiate them a little bit. It's supposed to be light. And back to kind of like a gray. Let's see, this is light, this is supposed to be also gray. And then it's supposed to be a black, so I might want to go slightly darker. So we have RG080. Is that what I've been using here? Probably not. Well, we'll see. That's a little bit on the darker side. But it'll have to work, because I think this is my mid-tone-ish color for when I was working with our color that was supposed to be for black. So I might have to darken up Sables as well for it to read a little bit more correctly. Okay, so I think we have enough differentiating grays here. white, gray, and then this is black. Sometimes I feel like I overblend to make things look soft for clothing, and it just doesn't read correctly. Okay. Like, for the clothing, I should maybe leave it a little bit more, like, cell shady. Okay, next is his gloves, which I think is all black. I don't remember. Does he have rings? Yes, he does. He has many rings. Let's see. Which ones would be visible? One of them would be visible. So if he has his hands like this, it'll be on his pinky. The other ones you can't really see because I only have his pinky and his ring finger showing. Okay, so dark thumbs. Then we'll do a pass of the lighter. I was gonna say the lighter gray. I think I chose the wrong one right off the bat. It's okay. It's gonna be similar to Sable's, I guess. Glad Zeal's hair is also on the darker side. That way, I don't have to worry too much about accidentally bleeding into his drawing, because the black should cover it more or less. I feel like his other finger should be more visible. Just saw the way I drew it. It doesn't really show it. Okay. So I think Kaelix is pretty much done. Like Sable's, some of the darker areas, it will be fixed up a little bit more once we are able to add in our darker line art. I might add a little bit more blue to his hair. Might see if I can add a smidge of yellow to his eyes. Can't really see it too much. Okay, Okay, so I think Kaelix is done until we are ready to do the, what is it called? The darker line art. So let's go ahead and move on to Freo, which I am scared to do his hair color. I don't think I've really colored hair of his color with like traditional medium technically, other than maybe watercolors. Let's work on Freo. Okay, so kind of continuing where I left off. Let's see. So for Freo, I am nervous about doing his eyes because I'm not too sure if I'm able to capture the color gradient in there. Let's start off with the skin tone, just like the rest. So, starting off with a little bit of our darker color here. So hopefully I found colors that will work for his hair color. I know you can layer up a lot of markers, but sometimes I'm a little bit nervous when it comes to layering up and making a lot of new colors. Because usually if I do that, I would like to test it out prior to doing it like directly onto the character that I'm drawing. Okay, back in with our lighter color. Hopefully to buff it out. I probably will in the future just buy refills for the skin tone set. I think I mentioned that earlier. Because it's nice to have one dedicated like skin tone set. So I can get kind of familiar with the different values I can make with it. But like I mentioned, I probably will try to fill in some of the gaps with the color selection that they have, because they have some for more like the fairer skin tones. But for some of the darker ones, it would be nice to also have like some cooler and warmer versions of some of the bases and shadow colors I would like to use for darker skin tones. Kind of nicely blended out. Freo is so pretty though, just like design wise. I think all of them have really pretty models. Not only that, they're all like wholesome for the most part. Oh, I forgot to add in our color. So I was actually scared to do Freo's color. I don't know if Light Prawn's gonna be a little too dark for low-key or pastel theme here. Ooh. But the other pinks that I had were a little bit too cool to kind of look more like a red. And anything that resembled closer to a red felt a little bit too dark or even too orangey. I feel like Prawn is kind of a nice in-between, even though it is a bit on the darker side compared to the rest of the other colors. I'll have to do a few layers to get this as smooth as we can. Hopefully this will kind of even out a little bit. I think I mentioned on camera, the streakiness and just like the difference in kind of like blended areas and non-blended areas seems like a lot more drastic. But in person, it doesn't look too bad actually. Okay, so I'm gonna color this in too. And then we can work on the shadows for Freo. Start off with our shadow pink. So upper right hand side for our shadows most likely. I took a bit of a long break from doing Frio after doing Kaelix and Seible. And the reason being is that I wanted to reduce the amount of noise. Since we have a little bit more foot traffic at this time of day, I decided to wait until people settle down a little bit. He also has eye makeup, so I want to keep that in mind. I might add a little bit of light prawn to the edges of his eyes. We need some purple for eyeshadow. Then we need our gray. So his eyes make me nervous. It's kind of like a gradation, so yeah. Let's see what we can do here. Start with yellow on the bottom. He has like a crosshair basically inside, kind of like the center portion of his eye near his pupil. It kind of makes me nervous to fill this in. Just gonna fill it up right to the top. So we got yellow to kind of like a pink. I'm gonna use another light yellow to kind of mix the two a little bit more. After that we have kind of like a purple. I'm gonna wait for that to dry a smidge while we work still on the shadows of his skin. Let me redo the upper lip of Seible as well. And then we'll add in our little bits of blue. This purple makes everything look a little bit more saturated. I think I grabbed like the majority of the colors that I want to use for Frio, but I'm not too sure if I did for his clothing. I think I mostly grabbed colors for his eyes as well as his hair, which I'm a little bit nervous to do as well. So we'll continue to blend it out. Okay, so eye color, we want to transition this to see more of like a darker purple color. So I might go over this blue for a darker, cooler purple and see if I can kind of, I don't think I'll be able to carve out crosshair for Freo's eyes. Didn't really work, but I think that's okay. Let's add a little bit more of our pinkish peach colors. Kind of round out the bottom and fill in some of the gaps here. Okay, next up we have his hair. So his hair, I believe the reference sheet had kind of like a peach for the highlights. Do I want to do the same? Guess you could put an indication of it. Let's start with this then. Because I really didn't bleed any into the hair as much as Saible's and Kaelix. I feel like I haven't listened to Shoujo Rei in so long. And now it's playing. Okay, let's choose. Let's see how well this works. Might have to find another color to kind of help make this look a little less green. Because he has like a green, but it's a little bit more bluish as well. So having it only be green is kind of throwing me off. Technically, he's supposed to be red and green. But he's not like straight up green. It's like a really pleasant kind of bluish green that really works well with the red in his design. And I think a lot of you guys know I'm like kind of a sucker for this color combination to some degree. Like blues and yellows, blues and oranges, teals and turquoises with oranges, peach, pink, anything like that. Is this darker? Well, let's try it, I guess. Yeah, this is much darker. It is a little bit more blue, which is nice. This actually really helps. I'll probably still do maybe a light layer of blue over top of all of this afterwards as well. So, like I mentioned, mid-tone kind of color, blend it out with the lighter if you want to do more like of a gradient. And then kind of blending it out into our more peachy color towards the skin and the face. I might put a little bit of a shadow here as well. And then we'll really darken up parts of his hair. We'll make it a little bit more cooler towards some blue. Here's our blue-green once again. The fun thing about using some of these darker colors though is that I don't really have to blend them out per se for the hair at least. Because hair kind of has like a little bit more of that scratchy texture if you want to make it look either smooth and shiny or you want it to be kind of going in one direction, you kind of can. Or like you can do like small sections to build it up. But usually when I'm doing like hair, if I can plan out the kind of highlights, then it makes it a little bit easier for myself. Add even more blue. Okay, I think his hair actually looks pretty good. Eyes, let's see. I didn't pick out reds, and he kind of has more of a purpley gray for the base of his jacket, I guess. I might use this for the base of our red, but we need something a little bit more intense. So there is a little bit inside his sleeve. Actually, yeah, we'll mostly use this color first. I think this is also maybe a darker color to go all the way around. His eye kind of has like the similar design to his earrings. Okay, then we have all of this. It should have been more like a, almost like a curtain-like material. I also didn't grab really any actual purple colors to do kind of like their gemstone amulet here. And we have a lot of silver. So we keep placing down our reds. Red on the inside, red around the neck. You can kind of see like I'm not very super careful about coloring in the lines. I wish I was a little bit more meticulous, but I'm not. This is also exposed skin. Now let's get our dark colors going on here. I might even use, let's see, how do I want to do this? I guess you'll put this as the base. Because this is quite dark and very shiny. Go all the way around, kind of the center portion. And then sleeve-wise, and his gloves are dark, which I will try to blend out slightly lighter color with this one before we add in more of like cell shading for the shadows for his gloves. Grab our lighter gray. So I'm gonna do the light portion first, probably, of his jacket, because it's kind of like a purpley gray color. But just to make sure I don't accidentally blend in this shirt color with darker colors, I'd rather do it now and then use the darker color to cover everything up. Might get some neutral grays to do some of his accessories here. Neutral grays. And grab another lighter color. Which one's the latest one that we got? Not gonna lie, I did not know how exactly I wanted to the color in this portion. So you can kind of see I'm winging it and it's turning out quite bad. And then we choose our darker color. kind of act as our black here. Another reason why, like, I don't think I explained this really. I have different reasons for it every time I work on a different medium, why I don't really use the color black as often, unless it's like super deliberate. But this time it's mostly because I want my line art to be the darkest thing. So there's not really a need for me to put too much of like the dark colors down on parts that I want to have like darker line art. Otherwise, like, you're not going to really be able to see the line art, and I might botch up some of the details otherwise. Our gloves, and then we'll do the bands on his jacket. Yeah, I kind of like the fact that these ones aren't like super blurred. So it's not really needed. Okay, so I think Freo's almost done. We just have to do a little bit of shadows here. Did I decide what color? So for some of the areas that are still the red, might have to darken those up as well. So let's grab some of our purples to help fix this a little bit. I did this so poorly. Red is not my strong suit when it comes to like traditional coloring, I guess. I know I mentioned like grays or like white and blonde or like yellows sometimes can become difficult. Yeah, red is another one. I definitely struggle with it a little bit more. RP1. RP1. I mean, if I can't find it, I'll just layer up purples, I guess. Just how dark is too dark. We're gonna use line art to fix all this garbage. For now, I'm just gonna see if I can intensify our red a little bit more. Not super great. Use another darker color. Okay, hopefully line art will at least salvage it a little bit. Apologies to any doraemon for butchering your Oshi. Or at least his clothing. I don't think his face turned out too bad. Okay, let's move on. I will start to resort some of my markers so we can move on to Zeal. I don't have room on my desk currently. Okay, so working on Zeal, kind of the same situation here in terms of our starting point. So skin tone. A little bit here. Some near his nose and then his lips. Okay. Kind of gives me a good base here to at least start putting in some of the lighter color to blend it all out. Kind of surprises me sometimes switching between the Ohuhu and the Copics, how squishy the Copic nibs are. I always feel like I'm gonna break them or something because I'm so used to using the Ohuhus where it's a little bit more solid and stiff. Okay, let me darken this up a little bit. Because layering is good, but I do want to conserve a little bit of our marker ink sometimes. I'm also going to let the skin tone kind of bleed through a little bit more on Zeal's, just because his hair is so dark. A lot of it's probably going to get covered up anyways. Try to even this out a little bit more. Color in the rest. I think I've already had this happen to me, but the only thing I get scared of when working traditionally is like running out of that medium's color. So in this case, when working with Copics or like any kind of alcohol markers, when you're like in the middle of like a drawing, let's say on a larger scale, running out of a color would be detrimental, I guess, to you completing the piece or not if you're running low quite early on. Which is why, like, I would like to do a lot more alcohol marker drawings, but picking colors that I don't use too much. Okay, so I want to kind of accentuate his eye bags a little bit more, or like, what would you call that? The under eye portion? Like in Korean, I guess it's like aegyo-sal. Aegyo, kind of like the cute. How do you describe this? But it's like very prominent on Zeal's eyes. His eyes always throw me off because I don't know where to put the highlight. Even though like I know highlights aren't necessary to like eyes, it just helps them look like make them look a little less dead. This is 150. Let's go with 30. So technically we can also go a little darker with our shading, just because his hair is going to be quite dark. And to make sure that Zeal doesn't look too pale, we might have to build up more shadows and add a bit more color back into his skin. If the contrast is a little bit too much between the skin tone and his hair. Okay, shadows for eyes. So his eye color is quite interesting as well. I think all of them have like multicolored eyes for the most part. So how do I want to layer this? Maybe we'll just do yellow in the center. I'm trying to, I can't really see it all that clearly. Like, is it yellow and then more of like a pinkish color? I need a little bit more of that yellow. And then we'll grab our purples. So let's start off light. Blends it out. So I will darken his pupil as well afterwards. Yeah, that color looks really wrong on camera. I think this looks okay. I might have to bring out like a paint pen or something to revive that little highlight. If I didn't have like a acrylic paint pen, and I can kind of salvage this if I use the colorless blender to kind of push the ink outwards, but we might get a lot of like, what is it called? Feathering and spreading of the ink. So to kind of avoid that, I probably will just pick out like a paint marker or something to dot that. Even like whiteout would do it. Unfortunately, like, scraping the surface won't do anything because it's seeping through the paper. Giving a little bit extra shadow to Kaelix. Okay. So let's do, I'm scared to do his hair, to be honest. I've picked out some green grays. We'll match it with this one as well. And some of our other grays that I've chosen from the previous boys' outfits. Yeah, I don't know how exactly I want to do this. Let's start near the bottom, because I need to layer in some. You can tell I haven't used this marker. It's really sharp and then has like a stiff point to it. Feels like I need to break it in a little bit. But this will help me transition to kind of like our emerald green tips or ends of his hair. A little bit of a lighter color. Really coloring out of the lines here. Hopefully I can use this to blend it out a little bit. Kind of at least mix them a little bit together before we add our darker colors on top. I forgot, like, black hair is also a pain to do with markers. I get too caught up on highlights and I lose track of like the form. Okay. Because his hair isn't exactly green. It's just like a straight up black with some green tips. I'm gonna try my best to make sure that it doesn't read too monochromatic, I guess. But like we said, work in kind of like chunks. Until we kind of get the look that we like, or like the combination of colors that work the best. Okay, so this will be the darkest color. It's gonna be hard to fix this if I screw it up royally. Ah, I'm so nervous. Maybe I should have done Zeal first. It feels bad if I screw up Zeals at the very end. It's like the thing I mentioned where I like tackling the face first so that if I hate it, I can give up on it and restart. There's not really any turning back at this point. But this makes me more like locked in to not giving up halfway through, because I've already done 3 other drawings at this point. We might as well finish this. So technically, it could work in my favor. Just carefully layer everything. Which is why I say to work in sections. Because if I really dislike the hair, it's kind of game over for Zeal's. Just because it is like a big portion of his drawing. Try to clean this up a little bit. So unfortunately, line art's not going to really help as much in Zeal's hair because the color will be so dark. It'll be hard to get any of the line art to really show up super well. But like I mentioned, oops, not this color. Bleeding in the hair into Zeal's, a lot of it will get lost because his hair is so dark. But it's also partially because I am making very much like certain choices in terms of how I'm coloring his hair. So I could have decided to just leave in more lighter areas near his face instead. Or even like lighten up his hair overall and give it more of a green look. But you can kind of see I'm not going for that. Okay. Then back to our lighter color, which we'll try to fill in some of these areas a little bit more. I'm kind of bleeding a little bit into Kaelix's drawing a little bit, or at least the space where his drawing is. Oh, well, you guys can see it. Zeal's hair. It's because of the light reflection. Or like how much the light is kind of bouncing off of the paper surface. Go this way. You can kind of see like where it's just pure, this dark purple color. I'm gonna layer up some more dark green over top. Okay, so next up is his gloves and his sleeve. So all these are pretty much all also black. But we're gonna do the same kind of treatment as we did with Freo's. Even block this in with the chisel nib. Then some of the lighter areas will be the same colors like the gray that I used for Freo's. So Freo had more of like a cooler gray. So we have that pretty much for all of this. Actually, this is dark, but we can do dark on top of it afterwards. So I'm just gonna block in our gray here. Gloves have the same color. I would love to do another like sketch page with alcohol markers. I know the last one I did was of Hyacinth, I think, from Honkai Star Rail. It was not really cute by any means, but that was during kind of my art block, I would say. Kind of like an art funk that I was having. So maybe we should try it again and see whether or not it turns out a little bit more better. To at least some degree. But I also want to revisit gouache. It's been quite a while, so it would be nice to see how rusty I am. Okay, so the rest of this is pretty dark. Yeah, I definitely drew his outfit wrong for whatever reason. So I think I double layered his jacket and his dress shirt. So it's not exactly the right amount of layers, and I have our overlapping of like folds and stuff kind of incorrect as well. That's okay. It's not the worst thing. Let's grab our darkest color again. Kind of hide those lines a little bit. Okay, I think might be good. Let's Do a quick little blend and blur some of these little hair pieces. A little bit of shadow to, not even shadow at this point, it's a little bit of color to the chain, and then now we add a little bit of shadow. Okay, last but not least, I forgot to add a little bit of blue to his shadows, which isn't super necessary, but to kind of keep everyone a little bit more on the consistent side, I will add it in. So trying to accentuate those. I don't know why I keep swiping the page as if there's any debris from the alcohol markers. It's a habit, I can't. Now that I know I keep doing it, it's gonna bother me. Okay, last but not least, let's add a little bit. I also forgot to do the little green heart for his. I jumped right into just doing the skin tone. Which is the green I had set for him? I think it's this one. Leaf green. Okay, I might fill it in with the chisel tip. Try to get this a little bit more smoother. Even though I think me using the chisel tip makes it a little bit, what is it called, more obvious that there's streaks. So maybe we should switch back. Even though like it does dry pretty flat. It's not too bad. I might pull back some of those colors again. Hopefully I still have them all out. I want to do maybe a small outline. Is this a bad idea? It might be. It might look really ugly. It's okay. Maybe if I made it a little thinner, it'll look so weird. But I think it'll help conjoin kind of the heart part that's like has the color with the rest of them. So green. We'll do Frio next because I still have the light prawn color here. It's helping me cover up some of my mistakes as well. I don't know if I'll do the inside of his earrings. Maybe we'll just do the outline of this instead of outlining every single part that has like the exposed white part, I guess. Okay, Kaelix. think this was the yellow I was using. Then I'll have to see if I can find the blue that I used for Seible. My nose has been acting up again. Okay, so blue for Seible. Did I put it away? PB1's the same, is it? Where is it though? It's making me doubt it. Oh, maybe it is this one. We'll see. As long as it's close enough, I think we might be okay. If it was like an entirely different blue, it would have looked a little bit funky, but I think it's close enough, if not the same. So we should be okay. Finish off Seibles. Maybe I'll do a little bit of extra stuff to kind of fill in the space here. Just do I have enough space on Zeals? Bring back the calamansi color here. Their colors really are the Uno colors. Like even just looking at this, look, it reminds me of Uno. Okay, then we need light prawn again to do Frios. Too many markers on my desk. And last but not least, we have Zeal. There we go. So let me go ahead and clean up, and then I will come back to do our final touches on these pieces, which will be darkening up our line work to give it a little bit more contrast. And then I will add a little bit of blush to all of them so it gives a little bit more warmth to their faces. So be right back. Okay, so this is kind of what they're looking like all together. Really looking like Uno, but let's bring back my little swatch sheet sketchbook and pick a darker color so that we can do the lines. Now typically if I do kind of like a brownish red color, blue or like a purple actually works quite well. It kind of like mixes a little bit with the reddish brown, but also the blue or purple is a little bit, it's already like a little bit darker than what I've used right here, but also, I don't know, when it mixes with the brown, it does become, one, a little bit darker and it kind of neutralizes a little bit more, so it reads a little bit more like black in a way. Maybe they're all okay. So what I mean by busted, I mean that usually felt tips are like rounded at the very end, but some of these I've been flattening because I pressed too hard in one direction. So I'll see. I might might just go with the dark blue. See how that goes. So let's put these ones back. Okay, and we can start to darken up the lines. Let me zoom in so you guys can see once again. How is this angle gonna do? I feel like I always keep breaking my nails more recently. So areas like, oops, we don't need this anymore. But areas like this is kind of like where I want to really darken things up. So let's get started. I feel like it's a little hard to see. Because even like when I'm mixing watercolors or acrylic paint, brown and blue is what we used a lot to get more of like neutral colors, and then leaning it more towards one direction will help you get a change in color temperature. And for the longest time, for some reason, that did not click into my brain until like the end of one of my painting courses. But not only that, let's really darken up the eyes. I think it's like really common to have like the eyes to be more of a black almost for the upper and lower lash lines. So darkening up the eyes is like one of the important parts of whenever I'm doing these, because it makes them stand out a lot more, and I can correct any mistakes usually if there's anything that I need to draw my attention away from. The downside about these markers, at least for me, is that this ridge digs into my skin. But I also hold the pencil a little bit on the weird side, I feel like. Corners of the mouth. So I'm not going over every line. I'm mostly picking and choosing areas that need, one, more contrast, and then two, anywhere that already kind of like darkened up because it needs a little bit more like depth. So this already makes his face stand out a lot more. Which is kind of nice. But you can see that the softer lines that I initially put down do get kind of lost. So having a darker color like this, even using black would work as well. I've definitely done that as like in previous illustrations too. Okay. Darken a little bit of the closed outlines here. See if we can do his gloves. I don't think I realized how much I'm zoomed in. But any area that doesn't have like a significant amount of like the reddish brown lines, the lines will definitely read a little bit more blue. I shouldn't really have outlined within this blue area, actually, because I don't really need any of those lines to really stand out. It should be everything around it, if anything. Hopefully you can kind of see the difference. This is probably like one of my favorite parts, is being able to darken up some of the lines. Kind of start off with his eyes. Similar to my other illustrations. For some reason when I started doing sables, I just went straight for the hair. His I will only touch up a little bit. I'm mostly doing the upper lash line and then a little bit of his pupil because it's supposed to be behind his sunglasses. Or tinted glasses. I actually don't know if these are sunglasses technically. They're only really sunglasses if they protect you from the sun, right? They're just colored prescription lenses. Is that different? I don't know, because I also don't wear glasses, like other than like blue light protective glasses, I think, is what I have. Corners of the lips, or corners of the mouth, I guess. Ooh. This is why you have to be careful. Don't want to accidentally give him a blue mouth, per se. We're just here to darken things up. I feel like I'm always out of frame. I really like doing traditional art though. It's always fun to do the process for the most part. Even though I do a lot of the sketching digitally now. It's also nice to make his hair stand out a little bit more against his glasses. more or less Kaelix's face is pretty much finished. So let's work on his clothing, and then we can move on to Freo. Once again, finish with... I don't realize how weird his jaw looks. Whoops. But finish with Zeal at the very end. Like I mentioned, I don't need to do any of the outlines inside. On camera, it definitely reads a little bit more black, or just like really dark. Because in real life, I can kind of see the blue popping through rather than just the lines being super, super dark and making it look more and read like black rather. Okay, I think Kaelix is more or less finished. Kind of screwing up his glasses a little bit. Okay, so next is Freo, which I really, really, really want to darken up his eyes. His needs probably the most contrast, probably, or maybe Zeal's needs most like the most contrast. My nose is so congested. Oops. Forgot to darken up a little bit of Kaelix's nose. So I have to be careful where I'm placing my hand too. Because even though the markers dry pretty quickly, if I keep placing them everywhere, it's gonna be a little bit hard because it won't dry as fast if I immediately put my hand in it, so I might be transferring some of that ink around. Like I think I did a little bit onto Freo's forehead, which is not ideal. Darken up his eyebrows too, I guess. I really miss Vocaloid music. This playlist is making me realize that a little bit more and more. I don't know, because the coloring is a little bit more simple on these ones. The line art Even though it's like, I find it very effective of darkening up the lines, usually to help me fix up certain parts of the drawing. This one feels like a little bit less dramatic of how much it changes. I don't know if it's because the line art that I chose initially wasn't as like super light. I've done like really light orange and a mid-tone orange before, but I think this one is a little bit more on the darker side, so it's a little bit more like just normal line art. It doesn't really need as much contrast, or at least like the contrast isn't as strong. Maybe. Or I'm crazy, who knows? So it definitely helps, but it's not like dramatically different, I guess, compared to some of my other illustrations where the line art needing more contrast was like very crucial. Maybe fixing this area might need the most help, I guess. Will it look that different? I don't know. Okay. Fix up a little bit of the sleeve. Darken up some portions for the glove and or the hand. Feels a little bit more rough. I don't know if Zeals will look any better either. Okay. I think we might be good for Frios. There are some parts I just don't think me adding line art's gonna really help tie it together or fix it up all that much. Like, this is kind of like a lost cause to me. Okay, so last but not least, Zeal. Like I said, his eyes also needed more contrast, especially for like the upper and lower lash line. So that is what I'm gonna do first. Kind of outline our iris a little bit here as well, and then we'll fix up the lower lash line to have a little bit more contrast. Lashes. Fix up the nose, corners of the mouth. Okay, so how much can we actually fix up here? Eyebrows. So hopefully I can kind of put a little bit more contrast for his hair. I don't know how much it's gonna show up because the color that I used for like the majority of the black, it does show up to a certain degree, but I don't know if it's enough to actually differentiate the shapes. It's showing up enough. Okay. So I'll have to darken up on his. So the reason why I'm rushing a little bit on darkening it up, it's mostly because it's digging into my skin. But me holding the pen differently, I feel like I have no control. Maybe I'm not doing too bad if I hold it like this. I don't know if it's because I hold my pencil so low. Like, other than my weird grip, I think the way how I kind of position my hand on the pen, or like any kind of writing utensil, I do grip pretty low, I feel like. Unless I'm doing like sketching where I hold it a little bit more loose. But when I want more control, I tend to hold it closer to the end or like the tip of whatever utensil that I'm using. The exception is sketching if I want to keep it loose, and holding chopsticks. Chopsticks I'm usually in the middle to higher, or where like I grip it. Okay. Not too bad, I guess. Some parts I should just really focus on, like these little parts of his hair. So you really can't see it. it might be good for our sprucing up the line art. I am gonna grab my color, like palette Color ENO, I think, or the Unidia color pencil lead that I have and add a little bit of warmth to their faces. Darken up his eyelid here. Yeah, I think we're kind of good to go, I think. I'm not going to add too much more to Zeal's, I think. Hey, so let's grab a mechanical pencil. I think this one will work. Let's add a little bit to their faces. You can kind of smudge it a little bit. I might use this to kind of make the little under eyes a little bit more prominent. At least on Zeal's. Okay, then we'll work on Frio. Work on Seible. I know I said like I don't want to add any like oils or something to my drawing surface, and here I am like smudging in with my finger. So calyxes might not be as obvious. Okay, I think we are done. Kind of our close up of each of the members. I feel like his hand's a little tiny. Small baby hands. And here's kind of the little illustration of all 4 of the members of By the Beat. Like I mentioned, I probably will do like a graphite drawing session like I did for the other waves of Niji-sanji, because I would like to continue with that, and I usually have fun drawing them like kind of all together into one composition. So yeah, look forward to that, and hopefully you guys enjoyed watching today's little session of me drawing all the members from By the Beat in this kind of like heart pose type of situation, I guess. And I think that's it for today. I will talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!